The Grand Galactic Summit was a place most humans could only dream of seeing. It floated in the middle of neutral space, a massive station made of crystal-like metal that shimmered against the stars. Leaders, diplomats, and nobles from hundreds of worlds walked its wide halls, each carrying the pride of their people. To be here was an honor, and Ethan knew it. Ethan was not a politician or a soldier. He was an engineer from Earth Science Division, sent as part of the human delegation to present new energy technology. He felt out of place among the glittering gowns, armored guards, and alien royalty. Still, he had his work to do, represent humanity well, and keep his head down. The summit was already overwhelming on the first day. Tall insectoid envoys clicked their mandibles in quiet discussions. Reptilian warriors with golden armor patrolled the halls. The air was filled with scents of alien flowers, spices, and strange perfumes. But nothing caught Ethan's attention as much as the moment he saw her. Princess Lysera of the Vari Empire was like no one he had ever seen. Her species had an almost human form, but her skin was faintly luminous, like soft silver under the light. Her hair fell in smooth strands of deep blue, and her eyes, large and bright, held a depth that made it hard to look away. She moved with calm grace, her long robe flowing as if it belonged to the air itself. Dozens of nobles and guards surrounded her, but she still seemed untouchable, as if she stood apart from everyone else. Ethan didn't think he would ever speak to her. She was royalty from one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. He was just a human engineer from a young, untested world. Their paths, he thought, would never cross. But fate had other plans. Later that day, Ethan was walking through one of the main corridors carrying a small case of tools to the human exhibit room. The corridor was crowded, delegates, attendants, and guards moving between events. Then out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a shimmer of movement above. A floating light fixture, a heavy energy lamp, was coming loose from its mount. It tilted forward, its glow flickering wildly. His gaze shot forward. Princess Liza was right below it. Without thinking, Ethan dropped his case and pushed through the crowd. In 2 long steps, he reached her and grabbed her shoulder, pulling her back. The lamp crashed down exactly where she had been standing, shattering into a burst of glass-like shards and sparks. People gasped. Guards rushed forward, and a sharp alarm rang out. Ethan's heart pounded. His arm was around the princess before he realized how close they were. Her silver blue eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the chaos around them faded. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Quickly, she shook her head, still holding his gaze. "No, you saved me." Before he could respond, her guard stepped in, separating them. One guard looked at him sharply, but the princess raised her hand. "He's not a threat," she said firmly. An official from the summit staff hurried over, bowing to her. "Your Highness, we deeply apologize. This is a serious failure of safety protocols." Lysara nodded, but turned back to Ethan. "And what is your name, human?" "Ethan," he said, still a little out of breath. "Ethan Cross." "Thank you, Ethan Cross," she said softly, almost as if it was a private message meant only for him. Before he knew it, she was walking away, surrounded again by her guards and attendants. The crowd slowly broke apart, and Ethan picked up his case of tools, still processing what had just happened. For the rest of the day, his mind kept returning to her voice, the way she had looked at him. He told himself it was just a strange passing moment, something that would never matter in the grand scale of the galaxy. After all, he was here for work, not whatever this was. But the universe, it seemed, wasn't done with him. That evening, after the human delegation's presentation, Ethan was standing alone near one of the viewing decks. The glass stretched high and wide, showing the endless stars. He liked this spot. It was quiet, away from the constant noise of the summit halls. He heard footsteps, light but steady, approaching from behind. He turned and his heart skipped. Princess Lara stood there, without her full entourage. Only one guard waited at a distance. The soft light from the deck's edge reflected on her silver skin. "May I join you?" she asked. Ethan nodded quickly. "Of course." They stood side by side looking at the stars. For a moment, neither spoke. Then she said, "You reacted without hesitation today. Most would have frozen." "Why?" I didn't think," Ethan admitted. "I just saw someone in danger and moved." She studied him for a moment. Humans are known for their instincts. Some call it recklessness, but sometimes recklessness saves lives. He smiled faintly. "Guess I'll take that as a compliment." They talked a little longer about the stars, the summit, and how different their worlds were. Her voice was calm, but there was something curious in her tone, as if she was studying him as much as he was studying her. Then, without another word, she nodded to him and left. Ethan watched her go, wondering if this was the last time he would see her. He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The next morning, Ethan told himself a meeting on the viewing deck was just coincidence. The princess had probably been walking by and decided to be polite. He convinced himself it didn't mean anything. Still, his thoughts kept returning to her calm voice, the way she had looked at him as though he wasn't just another face in the crowd. The summit schedule was busy. Humans had a small exhibit in one of the side halls, showcasing Earth's latest clean energy systems. Ethan spent most of his day explaining their designs to curious alien delegates. The work kept him busy, but his mind wasn't fully in it. In the afternoon, as he was adjusting a display panel, a soft, familiar voice spoke behind him. "Is this one of your world's inventions?" He turned quickly. Princess Lucera stood there, her guard again, keeping a respectful distance. Unlike the day before, she wasn't wearing her ceremonial robes. Instead, she wore a simpler outfit, still elegant, but easier for moving to the crowd without drawing too much attention. "Well, almost." People still glanced their way. "Yes," Ethan said, clearing his throat. "This converts stellar radiation directly into power. No moving parts, no waste." Her silver blue eyes scanned the device. "Impressive. The Vayari Empire has similar systems, but yours is different. Efficient." Ethan found himself explaining more. How humans had developed the technology after centuries of searching for clean solutions. How they used it to power cities without harming the environment. She listened carefully, asking questions that showed she understood far more than most visitors. When they were done talking about the device, she said, "You speak about your work with pride." "I guess I do," Ethan admitted. "It's one of the few things we humans are known for right now. We're still new to the galactic stage." "New," she repeated softly, but bold. "Sometimes those who are new bring the most change." Before Ethan could think of a reply, one of her attendants approached and whispered something in her ear. She gave a small nod, then looked at Ethan again. "Perhaps you could show me more of your people's technology later, if you have time." Ethan felt a flicker of surprise. "Of course, I'd be glad to." She gave him a faint smile before leaving, her robe shifting like water as she walked away. He stood there for a moment, realizing other human delegates were staring at him. Over the next 2 days, their paths crossed again and again. Sometimes it was in the main halls, sometimes in the quieter corners of the summit station. They spoke about simple things at first. Food, whether on their home worlds, the beauty of certain star systems. Slowly, their conversations grew more personal. She told him about her childhood in the Vay Royal Palace, where every step was watched and every word weighed carefully. She spoke of her love for exploring the quieter gardens away from the constant formality. Ethan told her about his home in the forests of North America, about working late nights on machines in his workshop, and about his dream of traveling to the stars. Each time they talked, the distance between human engineer and alien princess seemed smaller, but not everyone approved. During a reception on the third evening, Ethan noticed whispers following him. Through the hall, alien nobles glanced his way with narrowed eyes. One tall delegate from the Dorith Union even approached him directly. Human, the Dorith said in a sharp tone, "You spend much time near the Veari princess. Be careful. Her world does not take kindly to outsiders interfering in royal matters." Ethan kept his voice calm. "I'm not interfering in anything. We just talk." The Dorith made a low clicking noise. Talking leads to expectations. Expectations lead to conflict. I suggest you remember your place. The delegate walked away before Ethan could reply. He stood there, the warning echoing in his mind. Later that night, Ethan went to the summit's open-air terrace to clear his head. The terrace was lit by soft blue lanterns, and the stars above looked like scattered diamonds. He leaned on the railing, wondering if maybe it was a mistake to spend so much time around Lyra. He didn't want to cause her trouble. "You're troubled," her voice said behind him. He turned. She stood there again alone, except for the faint shadow of her guard in the distance. "Just thinking," Ethan said. "Some people think I shouldn't be around you." "I know," she said simply. "Word travels fast in places like this. Does it bother you?" She stepped closer, her eyes calm. "If it did, I wouldn't be here now." Ethan felt a mix of relief and worry. "Still, I don't want to cause problems for you." "Problems will come, whether you're here or not," she said softly. "The difference is you have never treated me as a title or a symbol. You talk to me as a person. Do you know how rare that is?" He looked at her, unsure how to answer. Finally, he just said, "Maybe because that's how I see you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The lantern light reflected in her eyes, making them seem even deeper than before. The next day was supposed to be calm. There were no major speeches or announcements, just private discussions between delegations. Ethan was walking through a side corridor, heading to meet the human team, when the sound of shouting erupted from ahead. People scattered in alarm. A sharp beam of energy cut across the hallway. An attack. In the chaos, Ethan saw Lyra only a few steps ahead, her eyes wide. Without thinking, he lunged forward, pulling her against the wall, just as another energy bolt struck where she had been standing. Guards rushed in, weapons drawn, and the attacker was quickly subdued. Ethan realized his hands were still gripping her arms. "Are you?" "I'm fine," she said quickly, her voice steady despite the shock. "You again?" "Yeah, seems to be a pattern," he said with a faint smile. Her guards moved in, separating them, but not before she gave him a long look, one that seemed to hold both gratitude and something unspoken. That evening, Ethan sat alone in his quarters, still thinking about the attack. He didn't know why anyone would target her here in the most secure place in the galaxy. But one thing was clear. Each time fate threw danger their way, they ended up standing together. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that he didn't want that to change. After the attack, the atmosphere in the summit changed. Security tightened, and the calm confidence of the delegates gave way to quiet whispers and guarded glances. Ethan felt the weight of the event more than anyone expected. He hadn't meant to get involved in danger, but the moment he shielded Princess Lara, their fates seemed bound together. Ethan's arm was bruised where he had caught her, but she insisted on visiting him in his quarters the next day. He was surprised when a soft knock came at his door, and there she was without the formal dress, just simple clothes and that same calm, shining gaze. "You should be resting," Ethan said, stepping aside. To let her in, Lara smiled faintly. "I wanted to see you, to thank you again." Ethan waved it off. It was instinct. Anyone would have done the same. "Maybe," she said, "but not many would have moved so quickly. Not many would have risked themselves for a princess. They'd barely. No." They sat across from each other in the small room. Silence stretched between them for a moment. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Better now," Ethan said honestly. But this summit feels different, more dangerous. Lyra nodded. The galaxy is changing. Old rivalries flare up when peace feels fragile. Some don't want us to come together. Ethan looked down, thinking about the guards and officials who had warned him to keep his distance. I worry for you, for all of you. Thank you, Lara said softly. It means more than you know. The room fell quiet again. Ethan swallowed hard. Then before he could stop himself, he whispered, I wish I could marry her. The words felt foolish, like a dream he didn't dare believe. He looked up quickly, but Laura was already looking at him. Her eyes were wide, a soft smile playing on her lips. Say that again, she said. Ethan blinked, confused. I didn't mean for you to hear. I heard, Lisa said gently, and I want you to know something. She stood, moving closer. Her voice was low but steady. Viari tradition allows a princess to choose her partner. This choice is not taken lightly, but it is hers alone. Ethan's heart pounded. You mean? Yes, she said. If I choose you and you, accept, our bond will be real. But understand this. The council and many in my empire will not agree. He felt a rush of emotions, hope, fear, disbelief. Why me? Lara's eyes held his. Because you have shown courage, kindness, and respect. Qualities rare in the halls of power. Ethan tried to find words, but only managed a nervous smile. This feels like a story from a book, not real life. Lara laughed softly. Sometimes life writes stories more strange and beautiful than any book. Over the next days, Ethan and Lara's secret grew. They met quietly, sometimes in hidden corners of the summit station, sometimes in the gardens where alien flowers bloomed under soft light. Their conversations deepened, moving from cautious words to honest dreams. Lara shared fears about the council's disapproval, the expectations of her, people, and the loneliness of her role. Ethan spoke of humanity's struggles, the hope for a better future, and his own doubts. The connection between them was real, a bridge between two worlds that seemed so different, but shared hopes and fears. But word began to spread. Some saw their friendship as a threat. Whispers turned to accusations that the princess was being influenced by a human. Political rivals watched, carefully, ready to use any scandal for their advantage. Ethan felt the pressure mounting. His own government sent warnings, reminders of the delicate balance of galactic politics. He was advised to stay away, to focus on his work. But Ethan couldn't. He cared too, much for Lara, for what they were building together. One evening as they walked through a quiet corridor, Lysera stopped suddenly. There is something you must see, she said, her voice serious. She led him to a chamber where the council met, the rulers and elders who governed the Viari Empire. The room was cold, filled with stern faces. You are brave to come here, one elder said. Sharply, Lysera stood firm. This man is not a threat. He is my choice. The council debated fiercely. Some demanded she end the relationship. Others urged caution. Ethan watched, heart pounding, as Lysera defended their bond with passion and honesty. Our union could be the beginning of something new, she said, a bridge between worlds. The room fell silent. That night, Ethan and Lara returned to the gardens, their hands brushing as they walked. Thank you for standing with me, Lysera said softly. I will always stand with you, Ethan promised. They looked at the stars. Above, feeling small but connected in the vast galaxy, Ethan knew challenges lay ahead, but for the first time he believed in a future where love could cross any boundary. The days after the council meeting were tense. Ethan and Lara knew they had crossed a line. The eyes of the Viari Empire and many galactic leaders were now watching them closely. Their secret meetings became harder to arrange, and whispers of scandal floated in the air like invisible storms. Ethan felt the pressure in every glance and word. He was still an engineer, but now he was a symbol of something much larger. Hope for some, threat for others. He reminded himself why he had fallen for Lysara's courage and kindness. It was the same courage she would need now. One morning, Lara called him to a private chamber inside the summit station. She looked serious, her usual calm replaced by a hard edge. "The Council has issued new rules," she said. "They want to keep us apart. They say our bond would damage the Empire's image." Ethan swallowed, feeling the weight of those words. "What will you do?" "I will fight," Lysara said firmly. "But I cannot. Do it alone." She reached out and took his hand. "We need to show them our union is not a weakness but a strength." Ethan nodded, his heart steady. "Then we stand." Together, they began preparing for the summit's final ceremony. It was a rare event where all galactic leaders gathered to discuss peace and alliances. Lara planned to use this moment to reveal their bond openly. It was risky. Some could see it as rebellion, others as a scandal, but she believed in the power of truth. Ethan helped her practice a speech. Together, they wrote words about unity, respect, and the need for the galaxy to accept change. It was not just about them. It was about every species, every culture learning to trust one another. As the day approached, threats and warnings came from powerful figures. Ethan received a message from Earth's ambassador cautioning him to be careful. This could start a war, the message said. But Ethan looked at Lara standing strong beside him. "Sometimes war begins when people refuse to change," he said. The morning of the ceremony was bright. The summit hall was filled with delegates from all corners of space, dressed in their finest robes and armor. Cameras floated above, ready to broadcast to millions. Lisa stepped onto the stage first, her silver-blue eyes scanning the crowd. Then Ethan followed, standing quietly beside her. A hush fell over the hall. When Lara began to speak, her voice was clear and strong. "Leaders of the galaxy," she said, "we face many challenges. Distrust, fear, and old grudges threaten the peace we have built. Today, I stand before you, not just as a princess, but as someone who has chosen a partner from a different world." Gasps echoed through the crowd. "This human, Ethan, has shown me courage, honor, and love. Our bond is proof that the future is not limited by species or titles, but by our willingness to see each other as equals." She paused, letting her words settle. "I ask you to accept our union, not as a scandal, but as a symbol of unity." Some council members looked shocked, others angry, but a few faces softened. Slowly, whispers turned to thoughtful nods. After the speech, a powerful elder from the Vayari Council rose. "Princess Lysara, your choice challenges tradition, but perhaps it is time for new traditions. If your union brings peace and strength, we will support it." The room erupted in murmurs. A few delegates stood and applauded. Ethan felt Lara's hand squeeze his. The moment was historic, not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. Later that evening, as the summit began to wind down, Ethan and Lyra stood together on the open terrace. The stars above seemed brighter than ever. "We did it," Ethan said, smiling. Lisa looked at him, eyes shining. "We started something that cannot be undone. Do you think the galaxy is ready?" Ethan asked quietly. "Not yet," she said, "but they will be, because love and trust are stronger than fear." They held hands, feeling small, but united in a universe full of possibilities. Their journey was far from over. Challenges still waited. Political enemies, cultural barriers, and old prejudices. But Ethan and Lara had taken the first step toward a future where love could cross any boundary. And for Ethan, the whispered wish he once thought was impossible had become reality. A bond not just between two hearts, but between worlds. After the historic moment at the summit, Ethan and Lara hoped for calm, but peace was not easy to find in the galaxy's crowded halls of power. The acceptance from the Vayari Council was only the first step. Many powerful factions still saw their bond as a threat. News of their engagement spread quickly. Some worlds celebrated, a symbol of hope and unity. Others reacted with anger and fear. Rival nobles whispered of political chaos. Some governments issued quiet warnings to their representatives. Ethan found himself at the center of a storm he had never imagined. As a human engineer, he had always worked behind the scenes. Now he faced questions from diplomats, reporters, and even strangers on the street. At the human delegations quarters, Ethan met with officials. Your involvement with Princess Lysera may cause problems, a stern ambassador warned. We advise caution. Ethan shook his head. I respect our duties, but this is bigger than politics. It's about trust and understanding. The ambassador sighed, but said no more. Ethan knew he needed to prove that their bond was not a weakness. Back on the Vari side, Lisa faced pressure of her own. Council members demanded she reconsider. Rumors spread that she might lose her title or be forced to marry another for a political alliance. During a private council meeting, Elder Merrick said, Princess, you risk everything for this human. Is your heart worth the Empire's future? Lyra met his gaze steadily. My heart and the Empire's future can be one. Unity is strength. The debate grew, heated, but Lysera remained firm. She would not give up on Ethan or their future. Amid the political storm, Ethan and Lyra tried to find moments for themselves. One evening, they met in a quiet garden filled with glowing alien flowers. The air smelled sweet and fresh. I never expected any of this, Ethan said softly. Lisa smiled. Neither did I. But what matters is what we choose now. Ethan took her hand gently. Sometimes the hardest paths lead to the greatest rewards. She looked into his eyes and the greatest love. They stood together, drawing strength from each other. The next challenge came. Unexpectedly, a group of radicals from a rival empire staged a protest outside the summit station. They carried banners demanding an end to hybrid unions and threatened to disrupt peace talks. Security forces quickly contained the situation, but the message was clear. Not everyone wanted the galaxy to change. Ethan and Laura addressed the summit delegates together the next day. Lisa's voice was calm but firm. Fear divides us, but courage and love bring us together. We will not let hate decide our future. Ethan added, every step forward is hard, but we must walk it together. Their words inspired many and silenced some critics. Still, the road ahead was long. Later, Ethan received an unexpected visit from a young Viri noble named Saren. Saren had watched the events quietly and now approached Ethan with respect. I admire your courage, Saren said. You show what it means to truly care. Ethan smiled, grateful for support. Thank you. We all need allies. Saren nodded. The Empire is changing. Your union is part of that change. This small friendship gave Ethan hope that even in darkness, light could grow. As the summit came to an end, Ethan and Laura prepared to return to their homes. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see if their bond would survive the challenges ahead. At the farewell ceremony, leaders from many worlds approached them with congratulations and cautious smiles. Some offered words of support, others silent acceptance. Lyra whispered to Ethan, this is just the beginning. He took her hand. Then we face it all. Together. Their story was no longer just about two people. It was a symbol of hope, change, and the power of love to cross even the widest stars. Ethan knew that the whispered wish he once held close had grown into a bond that could change the galaxy. The day of their official union had come. The grand hall of the Veari Empire was filled with guests from across the galaxy. Leaders, nobles, and ambassadors gathered to witness a moment that would change history. Banners fluttered softly, and the light of distant stars shone through crystal windows. Ethan stood beside Laura, his heart pounding with a mix of nerves and joy. He wore a simple but elegant suit from Earth, while Lyra's silver-blue robes glowed softly, embroidered with symbols of peace and unity. The ceremony began with solemn words from the Viri Elder Council. Some voices were cautious. others hopeful, but all acknowledged the importance of this union, not just for Ethan and Laura, but for the future of many worlds. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes locked with Ethan's. She spoke clearly. Today, I choose to bind my life with this human, not as a political gesture, but as a true partner. Together, we face whatever challenges the galaxy brings. Ethan took her hand and replied, I promise to honor and support you, to stand with you through every trial, and to work for a future where all can live in peace. The crowd watched in silence. Then, slowly, applause grew, filling the hall with warmth. After the ceremony, the new couple addressed the gathered guests. Our union is a symbol, Lysera said, of hope and strength. It shows that love can cross any boundary, that trust can grow between worlds once thought too different. Ethan added, we come from different places, but our hearts are the same. Together, we can build a galaxy where everyone belongs. Their words inspired many. Some who had doubted now spoke of new possibilities. Alliances began to form in the crowd. Alliances built on respect and understanding. In the days that followed, Ethan and Laura traveled together to meet leaders from other empires. They spoke openly about their vision for unity and cooperation. Some were hesitant, but many listened carefully. Their stories spread like wildfire. Songs were written, paintings created, and children dreamed of a galaxy where love broke down walls. Yet not all were pleased. Old rivals plotted quietly, unwilling to accept change. But Ethan and Lyra stood strong, their bond a shield against fear and hatred. One evening, as they walked in the gardens of the royal palace, Ethan looked at Lyra. Did you ever imagine this when we first met? He asked. Lysera smiled softly. No, but I believed in us, and that belief brought us here. They sat beneath a tree that shimmered with glowing leaves, feeling the peace of the moment. Our journey is just beginning, Ethan said, and we will face it. Together, Lyra replied. Years passed, and their union became a legend. The Veari Empire grew stronger, embracing new ideas and friendships. Earth became a respected partner in galactic affairs, and humans earned a place among the stars. Children of many species played together in the gardens of the palace, learning stories of courage and love. Ethan and Laura watched with pride, knowing their whispered wish had changed countless lives. In the quiet moments, Ethan often thought back to the day he saved Laura from the falling lamp, a simple act that had sparked a journey beyond his wildest dreams. He smiled, remembering how he had whispered, I wish I could marry her, never imagining the princess would say yes. Now, that yes was more than a promise. It was the beginning of a new galaxy. And so in a universe vast and full of wonder, two hearts from different worlds show that love could break barriers, unite peoples, and create hope where there was once only fear. Their story will be told for generations, a shining example that sometimes the greatest journeys begin with a whispered